It seems as though we may finally be getting answers about what happened to Nolan Xavier Wells. The phone call to Cito was released yesterday, and although the caller appeared panicked and focused on keeping the boat from sinking, there seems to be much more happening in the background. If you listen closely, you can seemingly hear passengers calling Nolan's name, even though the public has been told that Nolan never made it back onto the boat. You can also hear what sounds like someone asking whether he is dead and another person telling Wyatt to check his chest. There is so much happening in this call, and what we appear to hear does not match the account Warren gave during his interview. This audio may also help answer several major questions. Why did the group suddenly say they no longer needed assistance? Why did we see them leave the boat launch near Eli Jax's home but never saw them return? And why was there a quick detour involving the allegedly sinking boat after they docked, taking it from Jax's house to Fort Bayou? Investigators, either critical details are being overlooked or the public has not been given the complete story. The audio is already authenticated, and if the background statements that I've interpreted are correct, then we are demanding immediate investigation, clear answers, and several arrests. Let's go.
Connect you.
Cito Assistance, Vicky speaking. How can I help you?
Hey, we're at the west tip of Horn, and our bilge pump stopped working. We're sinking. Can y'all please come? We have a membership.
All right, of course. How far is the water coming up, sir? Can you give me a description? Ankles? Hello?
Hey.
Yes. How far is the water coming up, sir?
It's coming up. We're just sinking. I don't know. Like we're going down now.
There's been a lot of chatter online, especially since Ben Crump announced the results of the preliminary autopsy in Nolan Wells' death. And there are people speculating that it somehow shows foul play, indicates foul play. Ben Crump said that the medical examiner did not rule it out. There are other people who are saying it proves nothing, that it doesn't show anything involving foul play, or certainly not racism. You can't tell that from an autopsy. But a lot of people are trying to read into this preliminary finding and figure out, well, what does it all mean? And the only reason I want to do this right now is it doesn't really mean anything yet. That the information that is available does not prove accident, foul play, anything. And it doesn't lean one way or another. The injury to the back of his head could be foul play, but it also could be pooling from the body laying on a slab, which was the case when the body was examined by the Mississippi medical examiner. So we don't know. It could be one, it could be the other. We don't.
Nolan Wells bombshell tonight. The dead teen's messages deleted after his body washes ashore. Caitlin, now allegations have reared their ugly head that his phone has been tampered with and items have been deleted. Explain.
They had his phone. And when his mother was looking for his phone when he was missing, there were two different ways to identify it, either a Snapchat location or a Life 360 location. They showed different locations, which is very possible because one updates automatically, the other only updates when you open the app. But when she finally tracked it down, she says there was nothing on it from that day.
A big contradiction on television was you said in your interview that you were really, really good friends with Nolan, his best friend. Nolan's mother said on television that as if she don't even know you.
Have you spoken to Tristan since Nolan's passing, and how are you responding to his account of what happened?
So first of all, we don't know Tristan. We've never met him. So to say, best friend, childhood friend, that's a bit of a stretch.
So what's the truth in that? And how did that affect you? How did that make you feel?
So she originally touched and she said that we weren't childhood best friends. And she's not wrong. She's not wrong. I moved to Ocean Springs in 9th grade. I met Nolan in 9th grade.
Of Nolan Xavier Wells. He conducted and presented this report on July 19th, 2026. Preliminary report, second autopsy, death of Nolan Xavier Wells. Cause of death, undetermined, pending investigation. And we'll explain that as we go through the report.
All right, so watch this video and then I'm going to respond.
Believe that. But do you think race might be a factor? Like my wife said, I don't want to believe that, but it's so many things have happened.
And he continues to go on and say, oh, my son didn't see color. And that is exactly why he's no longer with us. Because y'all want to get up here and behave as if you are not a black man and he is not a black man. And that is why this continues to happen. Because y'all keep trying to play this integrated game. This will continue to happen until black people accept that you're different and they don't like us. Parents are sacrificing their children to be accepted, a part of another community. How many more times do these boys have to die and the parents show you each and every time that they are the fucking issue and nobody is speaking on it?
That's fucked up.
Yeah. I think that's why. What am I looking at you? Bro, just go get a kayak. I'll just wait. Fucking life jacket on, Marquise.
I'll just wait.
Bro, you have a life jacket.
No, I'm black. It doesn't matter. It's not gonna save me.
Bro, yes it does.
Bro, I'll just find a way. Hey. Hi. Yeah, they think I'm about to fall back, but I can't.
Bro, you have a life jacket.
I'm gonna die.
I'm standing right
Hold
now.
on. So I can just hold on to the back of the
handle right here if you want.
Yeah, I might drown.
You won't drown.
You won't drown. Try to get over there.
You're not gonna drown. I promise you won't drown.
There you go.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Hey.
You know what's your name?
Oh, my name is Marquise. But everybody calls me LeVar because I go to Denellen.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was okay getting over here. And they think I'm about to swim back. I can't even swim.
Doing a good job right now.
Yeah.
Probably not holding on this. And it's my first time here.
It's your
First time? Well, welcome.
Yeah.
How'd you get over here?
Yeah, what
they made me
happened?
take that way over there, and they had 2 life jackets on.
I'm glad we ran into you.
Oh, you fucking pussy.
I'm never coming back with y'all.
Yo, we told you if you were coming, we had a life jacket.
A life jacket. This ain't even for a big kid. This for a little kid.
That's scary though if you're not used to water.
Yeah.
I just swim my pool in my backyard.
Yeah. Spring water's different.
All right. Welcome everybody that's watching from the respective pages. I'm your host, Jeff St. James, and welcome to another panel of the Ladies Table. We have Miss Crimson Cure, Maggie, the substitute teacher, and Miss Messy herself. Ladies, I think we did a really good, extensive 10-minute intro of being able to cover all our bases of various different views and perspectives of people who believe that there's nothing going on, like Officer Tatum, or at least nothing as of yet. Then there's others like Benjamin Crump and many others who feel like maybe there's some race-related concerns going on. or at least, and then there's other people like at the very beginning who thinks that minimum there seems to be somewhat of a delay of following proper protocol when it comes to a lot of discrepancies that are being reported. I'm very interested to see what you all think. So anybody can kind of jump in and throw off what it is, whether you land on the side, whether you're neutral, and why do you think that? But real quick, everybody that's watching, if you can, please just share this with at least 1, 2, or even 3 people, and make sure that you like the video wherever you're watching from. And make sure y'all subscribe to all the ladies that y'all see here on the screen. Who wants to jump in first? Anybody can go.
All right, I'll do it. First of all, you got a lot going on with everything that you put in there in the opening. I love it. I love the new opening. That last thing with those, I don't think I've seen that video because we do this every day with this Nolan case. So that video with the white people on the paddle boards, that looks like it made up. Because who's recording that? I don't know. It doesn't look real, but maybe it is. Because there's been so many things and so many updates. And the first part that you played now with this new audio coming out, I just think there's a lot of people that want their own way to be seen. And if you disagree with them, then you're wrong. And if they disagree with you, then they're wrong. And it's a lot of back and forth with things like that. They feel like people want it to be a race-related thing so badly. I personally don't think that that's what it is. Because they've been friends for so long, but it is looking like something, they might know something for sure between the boys and Katie, wherever the heck she is. Something just ain't right.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a strange place of, and this is why this is the first time I'm even commenting on it, because I've learned since being out doing this whole content creation thing, being early and the first to react or give an opinion doesn't usually mean you're going to be the one that's right. And what I have observed, and Judge Mathis and a few other judges have kind of spoken on this recently, that some of the proper procedures, or at least some things that would normally be questioned, don't appear to be getting as pursued. And part of the reason for why people are wanting extra scrutiny on this is because it involves a judge. It involves a person in law enforcement who, if anybody's probably going to get maybe more grace than an average person would, a judge or, a politician probably would be the people that, may potentially get a little bit extra grace. And there's a lot of questions about what was happening at her home. Why there was such a delay in terms of what happened with the cell phone, a discrepancy in terms of people claiming that they didn't see him after a certain amount of time, but then the phone call appears to be reflecting people definitely screaming his name. I think that there's been debates about whether or not this audio has been enhanced, if it's been edited, if AI is involved. But I will say, I do remember hearing it first from TMZ. TMZ is probably 95% of the time. Whatever they're leaking is usually they probably have some checks and balances. So for TMZ to kind of put it out, and it sounded very similar to what I heard through TMZ. In my head, I'm gonna be honest with y'all. There was a lot of mention of drugs. It's late high school, probably early college or college students involved. They're drinking. There's probably drugs. Obviously, it's boats and not a whole lot of chaperoning probably going on. There definitely appears to be some type of altercation or argument, whether or not he fell, whether or not he was intoxicated, whether or not he was choked out. Because I don't know. I just know that going to college and fights happening, it's not unusual for like an incident or accident to happen. And everybody involved is like, nobody say anything. Now, when they contacted a couple adults, like the judge, which was one of the guy's mothers, and I believe somebody's grandfather as well, when the adults were contacted, there seemed to be a discrepancy in terms of what was being communicated, what we're hearing on the phone, what they're reporting about not being around him while the phone call is being made. It seems and sounds like we don't know what was the cause of what the blunt force trauma in the back of his head was. We just know that there's something there. They have I don't know if they have his intestines or his throat or something that they're still doing further looking into. It looks like something bad happened. I don't know whether it was an accident or not, but I think it's very, very clear that everybody involved right now everybody involved right now is trying to do the whole, we don't know anything, get rid of all our social media. Nobody say anything. Now, if people want to say that this is race related, they can, but like Messi said, you have to factor in, was it as much race versus it fighting over a female? What is the way in which the case is being handled is more about race than the actual incident itself. Those are the things that I'm kind of thinking about. I haven't fully landed on it because I've been in those circles where you're around people who are friends, who have hung out with each other for years, had fun, can get into fights and altercations, and it doesn't get to that level. The conservative impulse tends to be, it's not about race. You're always making it about race. That video clip that we just watched, and the lady did come out and confirm twice that this was actually a real event where they were just paddling per usual, and then they hear all this noise and they whip their phone out. What you saw in that video was, I'm not saying that this is the Nolan Wells situation, but there's instances when Black people are involved, and it involves other parties who may use racial things or may do things. And if something were to happen and that Black person's now gone, all that's left is the people who are still alive that's saying nothing happened or we did nothing wrong. So even in that little video clip where a white woman with her white man and her white children helped this young Black boy be able to swim on, if you listen closely, you actually heard them making monkey noises when they were telling him to go ahead and swim over it, and they made some monkey noises. So I think this happened last year, if I recall. So the point I'm just making is a simple one. This Nolan Wells case, we don't know, we weren't there. But to instantly say for sure it was about race or for sure it's not about race in terms of what initially happened versus how the case is being handled right now, I think those are two separate things, personally. Crimson and Maggie, what y'all think?
Those boys and girls with Nolan went to an island. They came back and he did not. That alone, without any other fact, deserves an investigation. Why did y'all make it back and he did not? What happened? What happened to him? If it's an accident that happened to him, why wasn't that the first thing you said? When we come back, hey, Nolan didn't make it back because but happened and we got his stuff, but we couldn't get him. And go tell his mom and his dad, this is what happened to him. We sorry. You know, we was messing around and it was an accident and he fell or he drowned or whatever. That if he was just left there, they said that they left and he stayed behind. So they just came back. Why do you have his stuff and not him? If he's alive when you left and y'all left because he said he was staying behind for whatever reason, he'd come back later and y'all ready to go. Okay, well, we ready to go. Why do you have his phone? Why do you have it? Why he don't got it? Why would he want to be left behind on an island without his phone? Even if he's swimming and you're leaving, leave it where he got it. Why do you have it? That's the key to me. Why do you have it? And not only do you have it, when you came back to the mainland, your first action wasn't to go give his mama his phone. She had to come to you to get it. That wasn't your
Hold on. Let's park there.
Was not to, hey, this is stuff. Let me get his mama his phone because we don't know what happened. Y'all not even lying good at this point.
Now, hold on, Crimson. What you said about this phone part, did y'all peep the interview portion where, not interview, but, the interview where Crump and the mom was confirming that they have the technology, the Life 360 thing that kind of tells you what's happening to and with the phone, and that they confirm that that day is deleted, is missing? on his phone.
And why would it be missing? Why would any information, text message, phone call, a social media activity, why would any of that be missing? If there's nothing going on, and y'all ain't got nothing to do with nothing, and y'all don't know what happened, all of a sudden you don't know what happened. Why is any information missing? I mean, and deleting it is stupid because all we got to do is subpoena the records from the phone and get everything that you think you deleted. So delete messages and all that kind of stuff, that does nothing. No servers exist. They still exist with deleted messages and phone calls on them and voicemails on them. So that doesn't do anything. Okay, everybody thinks that you can delete stuff off the phone and that's supposed to get rid of it. No. And why are we deleting anything? Just take race out of it for a minute, because I think people get too caught up. I do think it's a racial thing because they don't like us, and that is what it is. And people can think whatever they want. Going a whole bunch of places with just white people and you the only black person, this ain't the first, second, third, or fourth time this has happened in recent history that you can Google and find that out. So I don't know how many times we got to see this picture play out, this movie play out, talking about, oh, well, it ain't a race thing. Whatever. The racism is more in, like you said, the way it's being handled, the systemic part of it, the investigation part of it. Because why are these things not taken into evidence? The boat, everything. We subpoenaing records. We asking questions. We're questioning everybody that was the last people to see him alive. And I want all the stories. And then we're going to go back to investigate to see, do the forensic evidence corroborate what you told us? And if not, you're a suspect, because why did you lie about what you know or don't know? That's how an investigation go. I watch enough true crime to understand. I've seen enough people have to be interrogated by real police with a real case.
Yeah. Now, real quick, before we continue on, I wanted to show this comment. It says, Fem Gems, I sent this to some of the other Wells family. They may tap in, but keep the coverage going. Thank you for that, sis. And if you know any of them personally, feel free to let them know that me or any of us are willing to have them come on just to ask them questions in terms of what their perspective is on the case. It's always good to always hear the actual family members actually speak for themselves in terms of what they're thinking as well with this. And we do have a few super chats. Survive to Thrive. Thank you for the $2 for sure. Thank you for the support. Trackstar, $5. Where's her energy when blacks are murking each other and other people in Chicago and other cities? Listen, man, I think two things could be true. And this was the other piece where I think Tatiana was the creator's name, where she just has, she frequently does this whole, white people being in the space with white people. It's dangerous. It's this, it's that. And there's this other parallel where it's like, if you're saying one thing, you also can't say something as well. Like this whole concept of like, you have to be concerned about your surroundings at all times with all people. And I don't know if we're just in a mature enough place yet, where we can acknowledge like me being in the suburbs or me being in the hood, depending on who I'm interacting with, I may be safe or not in both locations. And sometimes the safest for me in one setting might be just me being by myself. In another setting, it doesn't matter who's around, just somebody being there. Like, I think we just have to have a little bit more nuance in these discussions. And, listen, I get it that people want to pick a side with this. But again, I'm leaning much more towards, I just think the way which is being handled right now is maybe a little bit more race related and concerning. Going in the weeds of what led up to why everybody's screaming and hollering on that phone, we actually don't know what was the cause of that situation. So that's the kind of fine line I think some of us are at least trying to walk down. I know everybody's already on social media picked a side, but I think this is one of those where we do kind of have to wait and see. But Crimson, you said something real quick, and I'm gonna do these other super chats real quick. You said something about the way in which it's being handled and how they're reacting and what's going on with the boat and why was the delay with the phone. And you mentioning all this true crime stuff. You know what it sounds like what all these college students and maybe late teenagers or early 20-somethings were doing? It sounds like they were coached. It sounds like these early adults were coached about what to do with phones, what to do with communication. Everybody shutting down social media simultaneously. It sounds like somebody was coaching these young adults personally.
They're getting their story together.
Because all I know is that, listen, all I know is there was a judge that was related, and a lot of this meetup was at her home. But the way in which the approach, the narrative, even the way in which they're doing some of these interviews, I'm just wondering, like they sound a little coached to me.
They should have lawyers. They absolutely should have lawyers. So some of the things that I think that some people are missing is that when you go to Horn Island, it's not a place that you go pull up to. So your boat wades. You have to swim into the island. There's absolutely nothing there. I was in Mississippi for 4th of July. Hot as hell, humid as hell, and that was at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. So if they were out drinking, sun all day, barely eating, then that is a factor as well, which is, you know, what I think probably led to what happened with Nolan. What happened on that boat, I have no idea. Now that they got that new audio that just came out like last night, right?
Yep.
So that would be why they had phones on boats, which has been explained by different people.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Get in the water, your phone is probably gonna get wet, and they don't want that. But Ben Crump won't, say that. So as far as what you're saying about the investigation side, maybe that's really not what I was paying attention to. I really paying attention to the boy side and the girl, which I didn't even know was a girl until 2 days ago. I forgot about her.
Oh,
so
the argument about a girl?
Talking about the Katie girl that said, where they said, Nolan, get on the boat. Nolan, get on the boat. And then he said, no, I'm going to stay with the girl. And then I heard that the girl said, no, he said he was going with y'all. And I was like, all right, y'all, there's a discrepancy there. But I just figured that out a few days ago. But as far as when people, kind of want to say that, it's the Deep South and white people and everything, I get it. But I also want to point out is that this family was living in Mississippi. They're thriving in Mississippi. They're successful. That mother's a doctor, basically. I don't know what the father does. Everything was all good in the hood until it wasn't. You saw the part where the father said that he don't think it's race related. The mother originally said that she didn't think it was race related. They all, I don't know. She says she don't know some of them people. It seems like they've been friends for a while. What it means down there to say you're my best friend, because they say that a lot, might be something different than what we mean over here on the East Coast. Because I say to my kids, everybody ain't your friend. Everybody ain't your little friend. So they live differently. Maybe they're saying it differently. I just don't think it's racism between these friends, me personally. So if he was drinking, which you see they're drinking. We've seen too many pictures where they're drinking.
Yeah.
And they're out in the heat and the sun. And if this recording is true, then it's possible that maybe something did happen on the boat and he did die. And then they let him off, pushed him off. Something, I don't know, which is obviously the problem right there. If that's the case, I don't know, allegedly, of course, but it's seeming like that makes sense, because I'm like, so nobody took him home? So nobody from there, none of them other boats can attest to him? It's like he just disappeared off the face of the earth. So what makes sense, kinda, is that he was on that boat. And if they heard a girl on there, maybe Katie was on the boat, maybe they're all conspiring, and then he passed, and then they just kind of let him drift into the water. I don't know a kind way to say that. Allegedly, that's just the thought. Yeah. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of information.
But the real thing that why I think this case is even starting to blow up more and more is it's just people lying.
Yes.
There's no other way to explain this, is that the level of contradictions this early before we've even made it into court, they're lying. And handing that phone back and deleting stuff, there's something they're hiding. And again, we could think they're hiding something innocent where it was an accident. He ended up dying and they just don't want it to come back that any of them think it's all on them. I don't know. I'm not a doctor in that way, and I can't speak to it. It just comes off like they've been coached. They were lying, but I would argue they were coached even before lawyers got involved. Because the way in which that they moved from that moment on, by the time this mom was notified what happened, there was already a level of coordination that just makes it, I don't know. Maggie, what you think?
Before I say what I think, I want to offer my deepest condolences to the parents, to the family of this young man. This hits really hard because these boys are the same age as my boys. I do have a question, and then I'll give my thoughts. Just to be clear, Mr. Jeff, you said the last video with the paddleboard, that happened last year. That is not at the same time.
No, I don't think so. No, this is a totally separate situation where a bunch of people on her platform was saying, "Hey, can you reshare this video?" Because I guess how relevant it was in terms of people already picking narratives about what does and doesn't happen in 2026 or recently. And this lady like shared the video clip to kind of reiterate and show like race can be a factor. And we can't just because we weren't there and weren't present to see it, people tend to make an assumption that race wasn't involved or that race was involved. And her showing that video of her and her family intervening to help this Black youth out was kind of showing and reflecting, hey, this is very recent and this stuff still can and does happen. And we know to some extent the guys that were on the other side of the lake were like making monkey sounds and saying all stuff when he keeps saying he can't swim. If he'd ended up floating down the river, you know, and then the narrative would be the people who didn't know this happened, didn't see that video. Half the country would have said it's about race, and the other half would have said it has nothing to do with race. She just happened to record that moment. So that's really why I thought it was relevant. It's not meaning this is what happened in this case, but it's one of those examples of like, if you don't see the video, you don't really know if race was or wasn't a factor unless there's a thread or something that reflects, you know, it going beyond just a fight or something else. So that's it.
Okay. Understood. Thank you for explaining. I don't know what happened. None of us know what happened. We will never know what happened because none of us were there. However, this young man lost his life, and I've been thinking, as I always do, what is the lesson to be learned and what is the macro that will help us as opposed to right now focusing on the micro. They're going to take their time to do an investigation. And I do agree, people are scrambling to get their story straight because that's human nature. Everybody is always going to protect their own first and foremost. So when you think about being a minority in a dominant society, whether or not it started out with any type of racial intent, like you said, Mr. Jeff, people are always going to do what benefits them. So in the end, the outcome could still have those racial tones, even though we can say we're all just friends here. You know, being an immigrant, I have a different perspective because when I hear this land is your land, this land is my land, this land is built for you and me, I don't, even though I am an American naturalized citizen, I knew and I always knew, and I was raised to know that I am a visitor here. So I don't expect anyone to look out for me like my own would. And I think, I'll speak as a parent, we have to make sure that our children don't get so comfortable in a community that is not their own, that they lose track of their surroundings. We talk about reading the room, and I know this one gets really polarizing and I may get canceled again, but I'm thinking of the sister who went to Zanzibar with the proposal or whatever and lost her life and didn't come back. Everybody's thinking, what happened? This happened. But when you travel, let's talk about travel. I travel a lot. When you travel to another country, we may all look the same, but how many times have we seen, let's say, you know, some young person go to maybe a Muslim country and do something that they think, oh, what's the big deal? And the circumstances are very different over there. People are going to protect their own interests first. So when you are involved in a society where they have reason and resources to make sure that their kids succeed 10 times, 100 times more powerful than we do, we have to act accordingly and not just go through la la land. And I'm not saying that's what happened, but we can't just expect everything to fall, all the research and the justice to fall fairly. I don't think it's going to help us. And I'll say this, when it comes to boys, especially if you've had brothers, if you've been around boys do dumb stuff all the time. Boys start roughhousing, and it's funny until it's not. And something can get serious that quick. And so again, making sure you're not in an environment where when the what hits the fan and everybody starts scrambling to get their story straight, they're looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for you. Whether or not there was racial intent or not, it's not going to help us survive and for that boy to come home to his mom and dad. Think about it the other way around. Just ponder this, whether or not we say it's racism. Let's say there were 8 or 9 of us and one Caucasian little boy that was part of the group, and they all went out and an accident happened and the one lone boy who was different from all the others didn't make it back. You tell me if everybody would not be held for questioning, if things would not be seized, shut down, nobody's going anywhere, everybody's isolated until we do this investigation. So you can call it whatever you want to, but I know, and I think our children need to know, that we are always going to set ourselves up for failure if the expectation is we're all the same, everybody's going to treat us the same. It's going to hurt us 10 out of 10 times. So again, my condolences. I cannot imagine losing a child, whether it was intent, whether it was roughhousing, whether it was an accident. None of that is going to bring Nolan back. So now we can learn from this and think twice about, is this the environment that I need to put myself in? Even if these are all friends, are their parents and their uncles and their senators and their commissioners and all, are they thinking about what's best for Nolan, or are they thinking about what's best for them? And that's just human nature. Because if we were the dominant society, we would probably do the same thing. Everybody takes care of their own first. And that's just a fact.
Wow. Can I read off some of these super chats, and then Crimson, I want you to hop in real quick. Anyone can learn quantum. Thank you for the $5. Like Tariq Nasheed said, it's a good chance. It's a ritual killing, racist initiation. Listen, man, y'all, when you don't have enough information to claim these type of things, I think what we're doing is, well, at least on this panel, is trying to walk that fine line about acknowledging when you don't have any information. You can acknowledge how race can be a factor of how the situation is handled and responded to. And that could be a combo of class, resource acquisition, and even race as well, and even the gender. There could be a lot of factors at play with this stuff. But just saying stuff like this, I mean, I don't know, outside of actual proof, I mean, can't you call any situation where a Black person dies in front of non-Black people or ritual racist initiation if you have no proof on it? Like, but thank you for the $5 nonetheless. Shout out to Jeff and the lovely ladies, Jay, the great alien. Appreciate you for the $2. And everybody, if you haven't done so, but you want to show love, if you have a question or comment that you'd like us to respond to in the next 15 minutes, feel free to hit that super chat, or just if you want to show support, feel free to hit that super chat button. And 2 more. Trackstar, thank you for the $5. A question: if the race of all the boys were the same, would it be different or would it be the same? I think it's more so, we can use race or not. I think having people that have political connections, legal connections involved is the factor, believe it or not. And I've seen situations with people who were Black, because again, I worked in Philly. And if you knew the right person, if you was related to the right person, you could get yourself into certain situations and get yourself out of situations. And it was a lot of times who you were related or connected to. But yeah, so again, the judge is involved in this. So a lot of things seem to be not going how normal everyday citizens, Black or white, may typically have been getting this type of experience from law enforcement. And last, man supporting men. Thank you, sir, for the $5. Mrs. Maggie, I came across the video of a crackhead disrespecting I didn't appreciate that, but you remain calm through the disrespect. Appreciate you, a man, supporting man. I'm not gonna call him a crackhead, but my man, it was not his sharpest dag for sure. Crimson, what were you about to say?
I want to comment on the overall concept that we seem to have, we collectively as Black people, over social media and things of that nature when these things happen. And for whatever reason, there are those of us who like to tiptoe and dance on whether or not things have a racial undercurrent or they don't, or this, that, and the third. And I find that to be foolish and disingenuous. And the reason that I find it to be that way is because in this country, Black Americans interfacing with the collective of white Americans always has a racial undertone, regardless of outcome. Outcome could be good, could be bad. We could be doing business, making money. We could be friends. We could be not friends. We could be passing through. It doesn't matter what the interaction entails and what the outcome of that interaction entails. When the collective of Black Americans interface with the collective of white America, there's always a racial undertone there. It can be subtle or it can be loud, but it's there. And everybody's paying attention to it. Everybody's paying attention to it. And only those who want to blind themselves, oh, we don't see color. That's the most dangerous statement and a foolish statement. Because whether you see it or not, other people see it. And they will move accordingly with you. Now, am I saying you always going to be in danger? Is always going to be some horrible outcome thing that happened? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But we have to be real with that. Ain't no such thing as in the deep South, a bunch of white folks and one Black person interacting closely and there's zero racial undercurrent there. That's no. Maybe in another place, maybe in other countries, maybe in other cultures, but in America, I don't like it because it's almost like a gaslighting that happens. Oh, white people don't really feel a certain kind of way. Is it every single individual? I'm not talking about the individuals. We talking about the collective. What's the word I'm looking for? Perimenopause, brain fog, y'all. It's the collective consciousness. I seen a video of a white lady like explaining it. And she was like, we don't like y'all. And she wasn't even saying it mean. She was saying what I have been saying. She was like, this is culturally understood. We don't have to say it to each other verbatim. We don't have to. Just like y'all got y'all culture and things that y'all go through as Black people that other people don't understand because they're not Black. We do the same thing. But this plays a part in how we interact. Almost all the time, like almost 100% of the time, even when we're interacting positively or seeming so. I'm sure that Nolan felt safe when he left. That's why he left with them.
Yep.
That's why he left with them, because he thought we finna chill, we finna celebrate the 4th of July, we gonna kick it, and we gonna come back. That's what was in Nolan's mind. It may have been in their mind too, up until whatever happened. And then when whatever happened, just like Miss Maggie said, it clicked up. They clicked up. It was no longer about Nolan is my friend. And I care about his well-being. Because his mother was the one that put out the call and said, he's missing. He didn't come back. He's missing.
Yeah, they didn't.
And y'all didn't tell her, oh, no, we just left him at the place. He not missing because he was hanging out with such and such when we left. That's what we know. He was hanging out with blah 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 blah. Da 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 was happening, and then we just left. So he not missing. He was still at the place where we left. Talk to such and such, because that's who we left him with. That's all I'm saying. And I know I'm saying a lot. I'm gonna shut up.
No, I think the context of the country we're in, the history we're in, the way in which things are responded to, the situation inherently in and of itself, you're saying is going to have a racial component, even if it's an undertone. That's in essence what I think, Crimson, you're kind of alluding to. Okay. Yeah. I can see that.
Undertone, even if it's subtle, it don't have to be in your face and somebody doing something to you, but we know that it could or is playing a part in this interaction in some kind of way. Most of the time, the vast majority of the time.
Yeah, I think even if people were to tell them so, because I'm real careful if I don't like the people that say the whole "I'm colorblind, I don't see color" thing. I hate that. And I understand what they're trying to do when they say race isn't a factor at all, but so they're trying to act like everything's colorblind. Even in the initial interaction, like you said, where he and they maybe are legit friends, they're hanging out, they're having fun, they're having a good time. Even if there's no racial undertones with that dynamic in terms of how they maybe see each other, how they relate, how they responded, and who they knew was going to protect them. And in knowing that it was better to be a part of the group that moves a certain way and don't say certain things than be the one white person that stands out and goes against the narrative, because who knows if the group of 5, 10, 8, however many people are involved and know what happened, end up pointing the finger and saying you did it, or now you on your own, or now you're gonna have a difficult time getting legal representation because all of our stories are saying this, and you're the only one that's saying you were the last one to be there with him and saw him in this way. But like Maggie said, that is also something most groups will probably do. Was to protect my family, protect my loved ones, protect my friends, protect the people that I know. If the roles are reversed, would you do the honorable thing, or would you do the thing, i.e. protecting yourself and those that look like you? You know, so I think, man, this is a good topic. And Messi, I want you to jump back in after I read a few more of these. Schooling to better. Thank you for the 30 jewels and the flower for the ladies for sure, because you ain't get it from me, brother. But thank you for the flower. Thank you for the flower for sure. Veronica, thank you for the super sticker 5 for sure. Who else we got? Schooling again, another flower. Thank you. Growth Talk. I volunteered in ATO with young black boys, 2 boys, 1 armed robbery, 2 mothers telling their son to blame the other kid. Sometimes race doesn't matter. Yeah, I think rather than us saying race doesn't matter, maybe it's how and if it matters. Is kind of what Crimson said, that I think, and what Mackie said to a degree. You got to pay attention to context, the environment you're in. I think we get lost in just the confines of the actual relationship we have with the black or white person in front of us. As a black man, people will push these black men to go out and date interracially. You forget that if there's a domestic violence case, if there's stuff happening in public, the community, society is going to remind you real quick that they still see a black man, and they may still respond as you both being a man and a black man with a Hispanic or white or Asian woman. So, you know, that's such a good point that she made. Thank you for the flower again. Who else we got? Talented Mr. Heat. Thank you for the gold coin. All these jewels and flowers and coin. I don't know what none of this stuff mean. I gotta do some jewels and gems. I don't know what
I don't know where that come from. Like since when
it just started.
Like,
they're trying to be like TikTok. That's what TikTok does. So they try to
but do it translate into any money?
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay.
It does.
Help me. I thank you, Miss Messy. Help me out.
Yeah, I was like, what's Georgie boy? He was messing around with one of their girls, and someone couldn't take it. There are allegations that a female was involved, and there was an argument involving one of the women of the cloth. But we'll leave it at that for now. Key Warren Luke $4.99. Unfortunately, as black people, we are probably safer around white people than other black people. As somebody who live in the suburbs right now, and who has also lived in the hood, the projects, and 2 other suburbs, I think a lot of this is like, if you mind your business. To be honest with you, I feel like when you mind your business, it's literally true. You're not as safe in certain urban areas. That's literally true. If you've lived in Philly, Camden, Newark, you name it, you get it. It's clearly not as safe as where I am in the suburbs right now. That's a fact. But with that said, depending on the pockets and the streets that I lived on, there's plenty of stretches where I've just had no issues. So, and I think that there's other pockets there it is unsafe in certain areas. So, I get it. I understand the sentiment behind it. I've always thought that the interracial thing was always related more to proximity more than anything else, and maybe some other factors. But Big Mo, thank you for the $2. In a white supremacist society, race always counts. Woo! Thank you for the $2 for sure. Georgie boy again. He was messing around with. Oh yeah, he said that one. Who else we got? House of Hypocrites. Shut the F up asking about what black on black crime and why we don't give the same energy. The system never fails to prosecute in those cases. Justice is served. The issue is when the system fails to prosecute white on black crime. Well, I don't know how hypocrites, how familiar you are when it comes to working with or alongside the justice system. But if you actually worked in the hood or lived in the hood, you would find out that often justice actually isn't served. Because a lot of times there's a code of ethics that includes not snitching, and not going against the very black people who could be terrorizing the community. So that's number one. And number two, we also have a community that also glorifies this stuff. So I get the person who raised the initial point. And when it comes, and then what I don't like, and I'm finding this to get very annoying in this space, to be honest with y'all, whenever any potential incident involving a black person losing their life occurs and people want more information, when it involves a non-black person and people want to know more information about that case, using the black people die or black people kill each other thing, that still doesn't change what happened with this case. Is it possible to walk and chew gum at the same time? You could be concerned about what's happening amongst black people and also be concerned with this case, or are we only allowed to pick one side? So I can only focus on black violence and crimes, even though my entire career was in those spaces working with those families. But because we're interested in this case, we're not allowed to, and vice versa. If we're not interested in this, we'll focus on black crime. Like, can y'all just shut the hell up and allow people to just be interested in what they want to be interested in? And if they want to adapt, if they want to change strategies, if they want to have different approaches, it is what it is. Like, let people be allowed to just be interested in whatever pops up on their feeds. Jesus. And that wasn't towards House of Hypocrites. That's just in general. This pattern I've been seeing, like every time we're speaking on one of these high profile cases, I need to focus on what happened in Chicago. I almost cussed Miss Maggie. Y'all, I ain't from Chicago. All right? Your boy is from Philly. Your boy's from Jersey. I could be interested in any case of anything happened. And why stop it with blacks in America? Because y'all so unified. Why don't we talk about the murders in the other black countries? Relax. Black people kill black people. White people kill black people. Black people have a tendency to kill white people too. If a case props up and it's interesting, we're going to commentate. The
and
end.
White people kill other white people. Yes. What are we talking about? And you ain't from Chicago, but I am.
Yeah,
y'all not too much on Chicago just because the propaganda tell y'all that it's so dangerous. Chicago is not the top 10 murder capital in the country in the first place. I grew up in the hood in Chicago. So not too much on that. Chicago has its bad areas like any other major metropolitan city where there's crime-ridden areas, and then there are areas where people love to be.
Yep, and my family's out there. Yeah, my family's out there, and I've been out there twice, and most recently this summer. And I just told my wife it was the best city. It was the best. If you've been to downtown Chicago by the water and 83 and everything, it is the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful cities.
Is a whole vibe. Like we
come on now, like listen, let me finish these. Paula, thank you for the 10 jewels. Press F. I don't know what the press F mean, but thank you for the 10 jewels for sure. Slim, thank you for the $5. Shout out to all. Just call me Slim. Could Crump's presence be racially polarizing when it wasn't before his arrival on the scene? Are there gators and snakes around? I'm gonna say this real quick, and this is a message that I got a question to all the black people in the entire country. Is Ben Crump the only lawyer we can hire?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Why? That I do want to know, because I don't see this track record of success for why Crump is. I don't know if it's just he gets a lot of eyeballs just with his presence, and he knows a lot of people. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, a lot of these high profile cases haven't exactly gone out in his client's favor. So I don't know what is it about Ben Crump? Is he like the new like Jesse Jackson in terms of like when it comes to legal stuff? And is anybody, have you ever noticed like he's constantly being picked, and this is going on 10 years now that I've heard of Ben Crump. Why do y'all think he's specifically the one who keeps getting selected as the spokesperson for a lot of these families?
Al just called him the AG for the black community at the alleged funeral, which, no disrespect, it seemed like a pep rally. And that's why I feel like they latch onto these tragedies. No disrespect to, any of the family. He and Al, they latch onto these tragedies and then they call it racism, tell black people to be scared. You need to vote Democrat, progressive, liberal, DSA, whatever you want to call it. And that's where that comes from. Does he get paid? Absolutely. But it's also you need to vote for Democrats. So that's the part also that we focus it on, because it's the same thing. He's now in Wisconsin. It's like, well, what's going on with Carmelo? Because you was over there with that. And I don't even know what it was beforehand. But he gonna have his hand in anything to say it's racist. Now his mantra is justice for insert name, and start chanting that. Like, it's annoying, but if people think that's what they need, then that's what you need.
I want to tell y'all this real quick. If anything ever happens to me, I'm telling the entire community and my family as well, do not hire Crump. I'm sorry. Do not hire Crump. Because I want justice. I want a positive ending in terms of whatever it is that the people on my behalf are seeking. This brother's batting average is not hitting. I'm sorry.
It's good for settlements and his portion.
No, not on my behalf. And again, I could be the most pro-black, whatever. You hire another black attorney, anybody else. I don't know what it is. I'm like, this guy loses a lot for somebody who constantly is getting this gig. Anyone can learn quantum. Thank you for the 5. They don't tiptoe. Why should we? They don't wait for all the evidence to suspect something. They be on high alert. Oh man. Well, brother, you got a point there. There's definitely people who move that way. Wrinkled brain, $10. LOL. Lady, there were about 50 people who left with their black friends since July 4th and never came home. You don't give a F with your racist ass. Okay. Appreciate you, Wrinkled, for the $10. I see people getting a little passionate in this thing. 440 joules. That sounds like a lot. So thank you for that. I don't know what it means, but I know it means something. Uncle Alert, appreciate you, good brother. Who else we got? Growth Talk again. $5 by race don't matter. I meant between the young men. Horseplay or scuffle could go bad. The grown folks that's handling it, definitely race matters. But that's the end of the day. These young people are adults. These young people. So I Crimson has a point in that even the way in which these cases are often covered, we'll look at a situation like this where they're all adults. I believe a lot of them are college students, and people are still talking about them as if they're Carmelo Anthony's age, that they're still in high school. So part of the element of why all these white kids that's involved, these are adults. But the way in which in a racialized society where one group tends to be adultified and the other tends to be made to be very innocent, and that's actually one of the ways in which it then tends to be described in that way. So just be careful. I know that you said young men, but I actually have seen plenty of comments that made it seem like, oh, they're just young, they're this or that. Listen, brother, if you can drive a boat, if you could drink, you can come in and out when you want to, you have the responsibility to be honest about what went down in this case before the authorities find out. So in this scenario, it seems like somebody or multiple people are hiding something. They're adult enough and smart enough to know to hide it and not be completely forthcoming. So at that point, the young person, whatever, kind of goes out the window. That's for me personally. Cosmo Kid, thank you for the $30. I grew up in the Delta of Mississippi, so I am a Mississippi native. My mom works word stuck with me when she said, "Get out of Mississippi because there's nothing good in Mississippi for Black men." I can tell you some stories, personal experiences. Jesus, man. Appreciate you, man, for that, for sure. House of Hypocrites. $5. Not snitching has nothing to do with the justice system. That's a people thing. It kind of does, because you're seeking justice, and if the people and the population aren't showing up for jury duty, if they're not letting the authorities know what they need to know, if there's evidence they could be turning in that they're not turning in, that contributes to the justice not being offered. But I hear your point. When there is evidence, ambiguous or not, they prosecute Blacks. Now, that I do agree with you. That's why we have the highest rates of expungements, where we're constantly proving and showing, when people say racism doesn't exist and it's never a factor, we have the highest rates of being proven, especially with DNA evidence later on, to be exonerated. So I appreciate you for that. Wrinkled Brain, $5. I don't come home to a filthy home and yell at my kids about how dirty our white neighbor's house is. Okay. Thank you for the 5. I don't know whose Wrinkled Brain is. He's not on my side of the channel. I don't know whose side he watched it from. Shout out to y'all and respective chats. Uncle Ben, the new Johnny Cochran. Thank you for the 5. Who else we got? Gracious. $10. Every so often there's another tragedy. It's nice to see level-headed panel of a brother and sisters trying to observe and figure out the facts based on the limited information that's available. And that's the other part that's true. I think all of us that's throwing out our different perspectives, and although they're different, they're looking at things through a particular lens, but by simultaneously stating that we don't know for sure what happened. And that's what it is going to be from this particular platform. We don't know. We know something happened, something potentially nefarious happened, and they are hiding it. I am saying that. They are hiding it. We just don't know what it is that they're hiding and who specifically was involved that potentially contributed to this young brother's passing. Pac-Man, thank you for the 1,000. Jules with the GOAT trophy. Marcus Evans, what's good, Brother Jeff, and the beautiful ladies on the panel? Thank y'all for discussing this topic tonight. Thank y'all for tuning in every Monday. We started this now for about 15, 16 episodes, and y'all have been tuning in every week. It's been great to see. Gracious again. Thank you for the 2. I'll say y'all are sober-minded. Thank you. Thank you for that. Ashy Foot Productions is hilarious. $9.99. I hear y'all not hiring Crump. I hear you're not hiring Crump if you need legal representation from Lagos. I implore you to consider the law firm of Ashy and Foots. Contact Dr. Umar for payment info. He set me up because I'm really taking this seriously. I'm reading, following along. Wow. This is crazy.
Never take him seriously.
Ashley for Productions, and Maggie, you're MVP for that nonsense on the other platform. Appreciate you for sure. So listen, y'all, I don't want to hold y'all too long. Final thoughts, even in terms of just all the different points we've made, what we've seen, and what do y'all maybe want to say to the audience going forward, or maybe what it is we should be waiting and looking for, and what does justice look like? Because I think that there's a tendency that we have a view of these type of cases where if all the people we think that are involved aren't judged or sentenced to the way in which we think, then justice isn't served. And then there's another lens of if nobody that's involved in this situation gets any time at all, and the coroners just claim it's an accident, and you have a judge that's involved, all these people have contradictory evidence, and it leads to nothing. Is it legitimate for people to scream and say, this is corruption? What do each of y'all think?
Well, hopefully the toxicology will come out and help with making that type of determination, which we don't even know yet, which we obviously can see alcohol is something that they all were doing. But if they definitely are responsible for, like I said, what I think maybe, not letting people know, cover up, however you want to classify it. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about jail times. I know it says doctor and esquire. I am not a doctor and I'm not a lawyer. Okay. I see y'all trying to figure that out. All right. Only on YouTube, not in real life. But yeah, if they are found to be liable in whatever way, absolutely they should be getting some time. And if not, then I think that's definitely an issue, and that somebody would need to protest then, you know what I mean? And do something and say something and care. You know what I mean? Like right now, there's very limited information. Like I said last night, that new audio allegedly saying that they're saying Nolan's name just came out last night. So everything is basically speculation at this point for everybody. I think toxicology is going to be the first autopsy in toxicology is going to make the determination on actually what should happen thereafter. Me personally.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a big major factor, and I'm also concerned based on how things have been going so far. Who should be confident that the toxicology is going to come back accurate? Because they listen. It just came out last week of a toxicology. I forget if the lady was on the West Coast or whatever. And when I get the chance, I'll pull it up for another thing. Tampering with DNA evidence for years, hundreds of cases that they're going to have to relook and relook at. And I'm talking about swapping out DNA, stating that there was no DNA in grape kit cut tests where there was DNA. So I think the blind justice of assumption that the justice system always gets it right, or class or race is never a factor in how they're handling the stuff behind the scenes. We also got to stop living in delusion. And if you got the resources and ability to be able to push to get another additional third party involved that you believe could be a little bit more trustworthy, so that the people in that jurisdiction or community aren't the only ones that's stating yay or nay, that's a possibility that you have to start to take a little bit more seriously than I think maybe. I don't even know if there was ever a time that we just blindly always assumed the investigators and justice system. Remember, y'all, a judge is involved. I don't care what you think about, set race aside, y'all. A judge is involved, and her child is involved, directly involved. Her child is doing interviews. So I think we need to wake up to reality that, we don't know to the degree of how much this family is going to be able to be supported and protected. So, and this is potentially one of the ways in which that could be potentially the case. Crimson and Maggie, what about y'all?
The way in which it is handled, race aside, since so many people don't want to do the race talk. Race aside, we're talking about, as you keep pointing out, rightfully so, a judge. We are talking about people with sway where they are. And to think that she would not use her power, perceived or real, her influence or sway, to maintain her child's freedom, you'd be a fool to think that she would not do that. For anybody that want to know how power work, especially in small towns and rural white America, look up the Murdaugh case. Murdaugh. It's a whole documentary on it. It's on YouTube and everything. Look up the Murdaugh case. There was a incident, and that boy's rich, powerful family decided that he was not gonna be guilty. It uncovered a whole slew of corruption, because so many of them was in law enforcement, and some of them were judges, and some of them this, that, and the third in the place where they were at. So they were using that influence to make sure that their family was never in any trouble, and the people that they knew, blah, 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 blah. So my point in saying it is, even if you don't want to think about race, think about power. Think about influence. Who would have the power to seal? They get a second autopsy done and don't send his throat structures. Who does that? If an outside medical examiner is going to re-examine the body and come up with their own independent findings, don't you think it's important that they have every part of the body? Why would you specifically keep the throat structures? And then when that comes out and make us think about it, oh, we're sealing the whole thing. What do you mean you're sealing it? Like, what are we doing? This is where the suspicion comes from, for people who don't understand where the suspicion comes from. Because it's moving funny. Because if we're in the interest of justice, and we are in the interest of truly finding out what exactly happened to Nolan, was it an accident? Was it foul play? Do somebody need to be accountable for it or not, or whatever the case may be. Let's just say you're thinking about it from a clean slate.
Mm-hmm.
What's with not being transparent about key things that could substantiate or debunk any fact? Why are we not doing that? You know what I'm saying? This is where I'm coming more so from how the case is being handled and the potential for the corruption in the case for it to be mishandled purposely, so that nobody has to be accountable for it, and that young man just be gone and don't nobody care but his mama and his daddy, and they don't care about his mama and his daddy crying and feeling no other type of way, just long as they kids all right. They don't care about nobody else kid. They don't care nothing about Nolan. They don't care about that. They care about theirs. That judge lady care about her son.
Yep.
Period, point blank. She don't care who she got to throw under the bus. You understand that? She don't care what she got to do or what string she got to pull or pay for. If she's able to do that, that's what her husband and all they're gonna do. Period, point blank. That's where the suspicion is coming from, because it's like, y'all not gonna handle this right, and we already see how y'all not really moving right with this whole thing. This is where the suspicion and the extra examination is coming from, and people trying to find out what's really going on. And I'll say one more thing to the people who always talking about black on black crime, where we need to focus on that. You focus on it. Since you so concerned about what the dynamics that play into black crime, whether you think it's poverty got something to do with it, or whether you think proximity has something to do with it, then you go figure it out, because there's only a minority of criminals in the black community, period. Anyway, most black people are law-abiding citizens. And just because they happen to live in the hood don't mean they shooting and killing. So you worry about it. You get a platform. You start an organization. You get boots on the ground to try to figure out why black on black crime is happening. You figure it out. Don't tell nobody else what they should and should not be interested in or talking about or thinking about. We can chew bubble gum and walk at the same time. Too bad if you can't do that.
It seems like it. And Maggie, before you go, real quick, Cosmo Kids, $60. Thank you for that. I wish they would give us the benefit of the doubt like we give them. History repeats itself. I hope we all pull together one day. If it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, then statistically, okay, yeah. I imagine this from multiple fronts in terms of what giving the benefit of the doubt looks like. But I understand the narrative of if the roles are reversed and the black kid's involved in something, the instant assumption is that he's just guilty. And we again, to be fair, we before people knew about what specifically was involved as far as weapons, if there was a scuffle, before people saw videos, a lot of people had already made a decision about Carmelo Anthony that he was guilty. And some people assumed other parties were innocent. And now is the roles reversed where a black kid ends up dead, and the very same group that was like, he's guilty before they saw anything. In this scenario, they're talking about we need to see more evidence. We got to wait. So I see the line moving. I see what happens depending on where people stand and how they move. The goalpost tends to move based on who's the victim and who's the potential alleged involved. Like I see how we move this goalpost in these discussions. But I appreciate you, sir, for the 60 for sure. F.A. Brown, just showing love to the ladies. Thank you for the 5. Love my ladies. Maggie, Crimson, and Messy. You already know you're my boo in real life. For the $5 holla. Great show, y'all. Thank you for that. And then the last few as well. A Vessel of Honor. Thank you for the $50 banger. CC was in the pocket regarding my home state. There's always a racial undercurrent between us and them. They don't call it the MI crooked letter. Crooked letter only in jest. What's the bottom part of the S's shape resemblance? Yeah, man. I think multiple things could be true, and I've being more and more interested and passionate about these discussions about how gender plays a factor in things, how race plays a factor in things. Living in La La Land and always assuming it's never the case that it could be evolved from start to finish, a factor of race, being at all a factor ever, unless somebody is holding up a sign that says I'm a KKK member in 2026. We kind of got to get that out of our thinking. But at the same time, it's like, individual choices. And Maggie, you kind of alluded to it. Going out drinking and partying on a boat with anybody who's not super responsible is the way in which I grew up and experienced college parties, the substances that was introduced, the environments we put ourselves in. A lot of people don't make it home just strictly off of who they're going out and hanging out with. Whether they be white or black or how society or the police choose to handle is the secondary matter. There are instances where maybe, that we have to reevaluate. If the goal is to be safer, is the goal, well, I'm going to do and put myself in situations where I'm drinking, high, taking whatever, and dealing with a bunch of people who's also doing the same, but I'm only going to do that with black people. Maybe the lesson isn't just race related. Maybe the lesson is also certain situations and scenarios we're putting ourselves in. Growth Talk, Netflix, our murder. Oh, this is what Crimson was talking about. Murders, a Southern scandal. I'm from a small town in Alabama. Race is a bonus. Local power is a fact. Woo! Wow. Thank you for that. And then last but not least, Alan Melton. Thank you for the 5. Please read my comment. I don't see it in the super chats, and there's no way I'm going to find it amongst the other 100 comments I haven't seen, brother. But if I do eyeball it while Maggie goes, I will show it now. So Maggie, what you think?
So there's a couple of thoughts that I had that I would encourage all of us to think about, as we close. I understand the history of this country. There are going to be some that rush to, it's always about race. There's going to be some that say, I don't see color. The truth is somewhere in between. I also would love that we could trust in the investigation, but whatever comes out of the investigation, there is going to be a side that feels wronged by that. We saw what happened in Zanzibar, whatever it is. I think they had 2 autopsies, and something in us still doesn't sit right that a young woman went over there, got engaged, didn't come back, and that's just that. So the 2 things that I thought about, there are, number 1, outside influences, and number 2, you mentioned class. Even if these boys were a band of brothers and grew up together and sleepovers and all the stuff, and I don't see color and all the things that we wish it could be, the moment that trouble happens, everybody scatters to their corner. Even if these boys are technically adults by age. I got an 18-year-old, call me, Mom, when does my passport expire? They still run home to their parents when they need help. That's just how young people are. So it reminds me of, and I've gone through divorce. I remember, I think it was Lead Attorney who talked about this. When women get all up in arms about, I don't want to sign a prenup. I don't want to sign a prenup. I would never do that. There is a time when it's not about what you want and what your husband wants. There is a system that is behind the scenes that you don't see. The moment that, I'll speak for myself, I may say, I just want everybody to leave with what they came with. I don't want anything. My attorney will say, no, we're going for this, we're going for that. So my point is, when you look at that picture of those boys, it's not just the boys that are on the boat and then they're all having a good time. They have people in their corner that are going to start moving things around to make sure their own is protected. And like I said the first time, it's human nature. Is there a racial element? Of course, this is America. However, I think the natural response is to protect your own. So if you are in a position where it's going to hurt you, you need to think about that and know that it may not start out with malintent, but if everybody does what's right for their own, am I going to be the majority in this situation, or am I going to be coming up with the short end of the stick? We know that these, this family, and again, the boys could be, lifelong friends, but think about it. We have a boat. I heard on the 911 call some type of membership. They're going out. These are people with resources. So there is a class element in there. And not only for their immediate family, but I'm sure their extended family, because Nolan and his family, when you look at the community, we don't have the strong arm in our community collectively that others do. So we have to be hyper vigilant, whether or not they meant it or not. When they move a chess piece, their ripple effect is always going to have a lot more force behind it than what we can do. That's why people go out and get an opportunist like Ben Crump to draw attention to it, because they want desperately somebody to help them. And I got my own thoughts about him, because where is he when there's not a high profile case? So the last thing I'll say is this, when I said all of us do what's best for us, and again, it may be polarizing, but it makes me think of, do you remember when the Ukraine war happened and that white woman, Ukrainian woman, got stabbed on the bus, or she was coming home, innocent woman. There was a Black man who stabbed her and she lost her life. You could feel the tension in the ethos about that. So it's right underneath the surface in this country. And I think to go, skipping through life like, oh, it doesn't exist, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. And in that case specifically, if that had been somebody's daughter, a judge's daughter, or somebody who was American with power and resources, things would look very different. But because she was, I don't know her story, but because she was not an immigrant, what is it when you come to another country out of
a refugee? She was a refugee.
Right. Because she was a refugee, she didn't have family, she didn't have support here. Her parents and her family are basically just at the mercy of what happened to her. And I will ask all of us, did any of us gather and lock up in arms and say, we need to do right by that Ukrainian lady who came here and who was just going to work and was minding her own business and lost her life? Or did we all say, well, that's messed up, but you know what, I'm going to take care of my own? The truth is, it's human nature to take care of your own. And it's unfortunate and it's tragic. And I hate that it's the truth, but we got to rip the Band-Aid off and realize the environment that we're in, so we don't fool ourselves into putting ourselves into situations where time and time again, we come up with the short end of the stick, whether or not it was intentional. None of that is going to bring Nolan back.
Wow. Real quick, there's one more that I wanted to read. Percy's channel, $4.99. Crump, the family denied allowing Cajun Navy's dog to check the boat to get sent. Decomp, source TMZ, Cajun Navy interview. Yeah, I actually heard about this, I believe, a day or two ago, in terms of that portion specifically. Don't know that applies at all to the actual investigators who also had the ability to be able to do the same, and whether or not they had access to it or not, I don't know. But I did hear that the family did deny that. I don't know if additional investigators that are currently involved had the opportunity to check the boat at any point. I did hear rumors about the boat being cleaned at a certain time early in the morning, but I don't know. And I've only seen that more as a gossip thing. I haven't received that in terms of official confirmation. The case is a mess. People are hiding things. I think what Maggie said, and the varying reasons, like you all have mentioned, power, race, class, it's probably a combo mix of all of the above. And I think that, I would love for everybody. I would love for us to get to a spot where, so let's just wait to see what the results are before we know for sure. I am concerned with somebody this high up being involved, meaning the mother of one of the potential defendants, being such a high-ranking legal member, being a judge at that. I am worried that there's never going to be a version of us fully. If something even did get proven to happen, that was wrong. I have a strange feeling that it's not going to be the justice that perhaps that person deserves, even if we have the evidence that comes out. That's what I am concerned about, specifically more than anything else, because it is a judge that has access to networking and resources for sure. Yeah, Yeah, this was a tough thing to kind of review and prepare for, but I appreciate you ladies for sharing your thoughts and your views and opinions. And I like how each of you actually shared three distinct points in terms of the racial reality of the country, the systemic nature of things that we need to pay attention to when it comes to race, class, power, and influence, and also trying to look at other factors that aren't always just assuming, like, because it's race involved, we just have to assume certain things. I think all of that is typically what critical analysis, I think, looks like. So I appreciate y'all for this. I don't know how y'all felt about it, but we'll see what the audience has to say, and everybody loves or hates us at this point. Why don't y'all let everybody know where they can find and support y'all? We could do Crimson, Maggie, and then Messy.
Of course, you guys can find me on the Crimson Cure channel on YouTube, but I'm the Crimson Cure everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, tap into my Instagram, the Crimson Cure as well.
Okay.
So I'm Maggie, the substitute teacher. I would like to use my time to respond to one more comment. You can find me everywhere. I saw a comment here from Catania Mama about me being ignorant because she would never protect her child if that child did something wrong. And that's very noble. However, I would argue in this instance, until there is irrefutable evidence that says this child is guilty, everybody's going to be deaf, dumb, and mute and see what happens. Ask yourself, is that the exception or is that the rule? Do you see more people? Because again, like I said, I think about the macro. We can use this as a teachable moment. Do you see more people protecting their own or saying, nope, Johnny, you stole that bubble gum, go take it back into the store and apologize to the store manager? So I just wanted to respond to that. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I appreciate the comment, but yeah, you can find me everywhere as Maggie.
Yeah, and Catania, I will say, you know, there's a lot of people that was a little lively in this chat. Unfortunately, y'all wasn't on my side, so I ain't have time to shut y'all asses down. But that's another conversation another day, because it was on my channel and y'all was talking reckless and doing the name calling. Y'all have been blocked over here. But yeah, Messy, what you think?
I'm used to it because I've been talking about this for 3 weeks now. But you can find me Messy Michonne live here, Messy Michonne on Instagram, y'all, and every place else is Messy Michonne. And this is a good conversation. But if you talk about something like this, you definitely gonna get the people with their opinions and stuff like that. So
yeah,
trolls are gonna troll.
Yeah. So like I said, man, shout out to everybody that's watching. We're going to stay tuned. And if, you know, we get additional updates, we may cover it in more and more panels for sure. But thank you to everybody that gave. Make sure y'all like this. Make sure y'all share this with at least 2, 3, 4, even 5 people. Make sure y'all are subscribed to the people or members of the people y'all see on the screen, including Anita from Better Love Movement as well. And keep Ben Crump away from me and my family. That's all I'm going to say. All right. So everybody have a good day, good evening, and we'll see y'all on the other side. Peace.